So Tina was telling us about some vision quests. Can you tell us about that? What was that? What'd you find? What'd you see?
Well, on the subject of lifting veils, which
Yeah.
is,
Right.
I think, like that's really what happened to you. You know, you began to see the truth.
So, no.
Could not see the truth. Could not see the truth anymore.
No.
Right, once that veil's lifted.
You can't go back.
There's no going
Like
back.
Yeah.
No.
The
It's
Vision
difficult.
Quest had a similar effect in some ways on me. In that the first one I went on, I was 13. It was a part of a church group called the Unity Church.
Yeah.
A Course in Miracles is kind of like a large part of that as well. And we had some really interesting facilitators in this Uniteens group. And we went on a vision quest. It was a 24-hour solo, 13 years old, but 24-hour solo in the Canyonlands. We hiked 2 days deep into the desert. And
Solo. What do you mean?
so a solo means is you go out by yourself.
At 13.
At 13.
So a bunch of kids are out there by
Yeah,
themselves.
and there's an adult that goes with you and helps you find your spot.
Yeah.
You stay in your little spot. You put like your little.
So
rocks
everyone's
or
in a certain
something.
area together. He can see.
But you can't.
you don't
Nobody
know
can
where-
see you.
Yeah.
You can't hear any. Ideally, you're alone, and you
Wow.
take ideally also. A real vision quest is usually 4 days, and has no food, no water. That's a real traditional vision
'cause
quest.
it
But
starts-
we were 13. We had water, but still, 24 hours with just water.
Yeah,
at
that's-
13
that's a
and
lot.
by yourself in the desert. So that was a real experience. And that night, I was in this kind of like outcropping of the sandstone. I felt a little protected, and it must have been really, really like late night, early morning, maybe 4 o'clock or something. Couldn't sleep, and I'm just staring at the stars, and these 3 red lights come out, like elongated red lights, like out there, and they were just kind of like dancing around the sky. And I watched them for probably a good 20 minutes or something, and and I knew, and I heard a voice kind of came through, and I was like trying to scribble in the starlight on a notepad, and I had a real experience it was my first UFOs that I saw.
Yeah.
And it was the first like real experience in that way where it was such a direct connection. And I was like, it was kind of like, yeah, all right. Doesn't surprise me too much, but it blew my mind.
Right.
And it was one of those things where you see it for the first time and you're like, all right, okay, all right. And I've been reminded of this over and over again throughout my life.
About time, yeah.
Recently it happened again where I, through ayahuasca actually, had another really direct connection, which was very, very familiar to that as well. And it's like, it was the message again was like, you have no need to ever question our presence again.
Mm.
And we're here, and we've always been here, and it's cool. We all are connected to the plants.
Wow.
And they're like, and we brought the plants here because they were a little insectoid looking, and it concerned me slightly.
They're like
But
ET style?
But there was like a dancing kind of motion and a really kind of light. And I'm very, very curious and open. I'd say that's one thing that I've continued to keep with me is this kind of like curiosity, and it's kind of like humor me. Show me something new.
Is there a significance between, you think, aliens and angels?
There must be.
I feel there's something there, obviously.
One of the things that Rudolf Steiner says is the ethereal spirits, ethereal beings. And I would put in the ethereal beings realm angels and aliens.
Yeah.
This like higher, and then also like our departed friends and family from this realm. Steiner talks about how those that transition and have become conscious in this material world, that they transition into the next world also consciously and stay connected with us. And if there's enough people, this is Martin Brechtel. Have you ever heard of Martin Brechtel?
I have not.
Grief and Praise is one of his books. You guys would love this man. Watch him on YouTube, some of his story, and he brings back this kind of like root connection to our ancient ancestors.
Did you have an experience like that, to where you had somebody come back and talk to you?
I've definitely had that happen multiple times over my life. And one of them, we were just talking about this earlier, my mentor, Ernst Fuchs, who painted the Apocalypse Chapel, and of course, many, many other things. He passed away 5 years ago, and four and a half, almost 5 years ago. And he, when he passed, I was actually in my studio here in downtown Los Angeles, and I was working on a painting that was kind of a secret painting, and I was down to the last wire of it, and I found out that he had passed. And I was in this kind of, sanctuary. I mean, my studio is kind of like a sanctuary, but it's like a cabin on a rooftop with a big garden in the middle of downtown LA, and it's this place where I kind of, hole up and connect. It's been a really powerful place for me. So I was there, and I was painting like throughout the night, and I felt Ernst there. I lit all these candles, and I just invited him in, and I was just like, and it made myself available to him too. And he was bouncing around the room like a yo-yo or something, like a bouncy ball. I could feel his energy just like everywhere, and he was just like, I can be everywhere at once.
Yeah. And
it's like I always thought it would be, and it was this kind of like feeling for me too. I didn't feel like the sadness had left too. It was pretty quick. It was like this thing of just knowing that he's like, I can be with you now all the time.
Yeah.
And I had left before, I had left like almost like 6 years before, from Vienna, being there on his side all the time. But I kept going back, I'd come back and show him photos, and we hung out a lot. We were dear friends. But he was now able to be with me all the time. Yeah, he was
kicking it all the time.
And there's another character, another dear mentor of mine. His name is Jim Shannon. There was a movie called The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Yes, we were just talking about it with my son, yeah.
So Jeff Bridges plays Jim Shannon, which is very much, it's a real story, true story, until Kevin Spacey comes in, as far as I know.
Right.
But he became a deep mentor and friend of mine in the latter years of his life, and he passed away a couple years ago. Right. But he's another person that is in that realm, like Fuchs and Jim, and there's a whole legion of characters that keep collecting. Right. And I ask for guidance all the time when I'm painting too. I was like, all right, guys, I'm remembering right now.
Yeah, I had
let's do this together.
No, for real. Like, you just said something that just hit me. For a reason, my mom passed away a couple days ago, and when it happened, it was so unexpected, like beyond unexpected. And so when we got to the hospital, because the day before she was doing mud mass, she went to ballroom dancing, she was hanging out with my stepdad, and they were having a wonderful weekend. He said she got sick. We go to the hospital. Within 20 minutes, she passes on. Everyone's in a state of shock because she just watched a UFC fight with me the week before. Eddie comes over, he leaves. So it was so unexpected. So as I'm sitting there, she passes. I'm in a state of shock. I don't know what's going on, but I start thinking that I could communicate with her because I have communication. I pick up on energy, but I don't understand what's happening because it's my mom. So I'm not really putting it together. I'm so freaked that I lost her. So I'm in a state of I can't understand what's happening. As time passes, I was at the funeral home and I started to hear something, and I heard like her voice a little bit, and I started laughing out loud in front of like 15 people that were crying. And I stopped, and my sister goes, "What were you doing?" I go, "I just heard Mom's voice in my head." And she goes, "Was she talking to you?" And I go, "I don't know if she is. I don't know how long it takes." Like I never had been through this type of situation before. But the next day, my mom was wide open talking to me with the same person, that same talk, the way it was. It was unreal, but that sense of sorrow went away like that, like what you just said. And I was like, I started smiling, and I'm like she was saying things in jokes, and the way she got my attention, as I told Eddie, I went to the bathroom. She had said something earlier that was funny, and as I got up, I'm sitting on the toilet, and as I got up, she goes, "Wash your hands." And I was like, "Wait, what?" It threw me off. But yeah. And when I talked to her again, I said the way she got my attention was by her sense of humor. And about the day she died, the day after, I said, "Thank you for my sense of humor. And the way she got my attention was through her sense of humor to me. And my ex-wife at the time, we're having dinner, and she was like, I keep hearing songs. The songs keep coming up. And she's a little bit more closed off to it because of what happened between me and her and the kids. But I knew and I felt it. But it's hard to when everyone else is grieving, which they have to change. Some people, like my son said, I'm so sorry that your mom died. And that word is not, you wouldn't talk to a dead, would you talk to a dead plant? I'm just saying, why would you talk to somebody? Because you feel they're there.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously. So they've left this shell and they're somewhere, right? But that word dead, I just feel it's I don't know, and I'm sure, moving on is a lot better, but I just wanted to tell my son that she's not dead. She's here. And she said to me, she goes, she loved it. She goes, I could be with you all at the same time. And you said the same thing. And she said that to me, and she goes, and you can hear me, so they'll be able to hear me. And I said, can you hear me? She goes, well, you're answering me back. So I'm going back and forth, processing this information and saying things. Then she starts interrupting me. And I'm like, because I was trying to get through, and then I didn't know what to say. So now I'm driving with my fiance, and I'm driving the street, and I'm like, I don't know what to say to my family. I have to share this. And they know I pick up on things, but this is a little different. And my stepdad just lost his wife, so I didn't know how to present it. And as I'm driving, and I'm like, what do I do, Mom? And she just goes, play it by ear. And that's exactly, I'm like, oh. As soon as I got there, I had to wait. I didn't want to say it while my son was there, because he'd be like, yeah, I don't want to hear it, Dad. And I told my stepdad, and and I saw his face, and I knew that he knew, because he saw my eyes. And I was looking at him, and I'm like, she's here, she's with us. I feel it, her energy, the love, everything. And that's why I don't have this grief.
Yeah.
So when you said it, and then it's so real. And I think that if other people, and they looked at when people pass on as something, and for me, I guess, I don't say for them, for me, it really did help me to understand that there is something else out there, and that it is so real, and that we all have it. If like I said, if I can do it, and then anyone can. And I don't mean that like anyone can do it right away. I'm sure it's different for everybody and how they go about it, but that it's inside us, that it's there. So to go inside us to find out is a search, and that's basically what it is. And that's, I think, what I was able to do when I started talking to my mom. And I'm so glad that I was able to hear that and to feel that, because it is helping me get through it, for sure. Yeah.
The waves, though, like this oneness feeling, this experience of connectedness that you're experiencing with her is one side of it. And then the other side of grief is very real, and is also something so important to not try to sweep away.
Yeah, avoid. Yeah.
And that's part of our culture, and this is something that Martin Prekatel talks about, is that we've forgotten how to grieve. And that the souls, when they leave, they need the wailing of the soul, the wailing of the grief.
Yeah.
Is what helps them get to the beach of stars.
To where they're going.
That's
interesting. I need to look into that, because my experience with my mom passed away when I was 15 years old, and it really shaped who I was. I'm still not over it. I gave up on. I was Baptist, so went to church every Sunday. Was in the choir, wore my suit, and I gave up on God completely when she passed. It was a wrap. You couldn't tell me anything. I wasn't atheist. I just didn't believe. I believed, but I believed that I wanted to fight God because he took my mom away. And I told Joey this with Jim. I literally can remember sitting in my bedroom in Hollywood going, can you just come in the room right now so I can beat your ass? Please, just come in here. Give me 5 minutes. If you really are here to give us what we need, that's what I need right now. So I grieved and still grieve. And when I look at Joey's experience, I'm like, sure, I'm sure that there were times in my life where I communicated and I heard, and she guided me and helped me make decisions and was there for me when I was going through pain. But I wish, I don't wish, after going to class, when I started studying with Tage, that communication became very apparent to me. I would lay on the floor and cry, and moms would just be kicking it right there. And she'd be like, you're good, don't trip, it's all good. You're in the right place at the right time.
Right.
So, and back to the oneness, it's not in us, it is us. It's not outside, it's not inside, it's everywhere. It's like you say, omnipresent.
Yeah.
So there's no way that we're not communicating with people who have moved on or people who are even to come, because it's all one energy. It's all one thing. You know, we are all definitely connected in that way.
Yeah, and when you think about like that, because we're so used to being not connected, we don't even want to talk to the guy next door to us. We think he's going to come in and steal all our shit, right? So we're like, shut the window, and if he comes by, make sure you have something on him.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and to that note, like, Amanda, you don't know us very well, right? But for me, if I would go out with you, like, you know, we're friends, and you're like, hey, I want to take you to this barbecue. I want to introduce you to my friend. I'd be like, no, I'm good. You're like, well, no, he's really, no, I'm good. You know, that was my thing. I don't want to meet anybody, and I don't need any new friends. Now, I'm the opposite. Like, I'm speaking to the most unlikely person I would ever speak to, and I do it selfishly. It's for me because I feel so good when I'm like, hey man, how are you? And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, you'll get it one day. It'll come to you, you know? Yeah. So yeah.
You know, we went to go see Reverend Beckwith, and we're sitting in the chairs, and they go, you turn and talk to somebody that you don't know. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, I'll just turn to my girl and talk to her, just an easy out, right? Eddie spins around, starts singing to the lady behind him.
Yeah, I did. I mean, have you been to Agape?
No, yeah. Singing out loud.
And I'm going to tell you, since you've been there, it meant so much to me to have Joey. We know who you really are, because if you knew Joey 10 years ago, he would have ran out of there. Like, stop saying, get away from me. It meant so much for him to be welcomed into the center, because I've been going for probably 15 years. But I turned around, and that lady was really into it. And I was really into it too, because I had brought you there, and I felt, you know, once again, right place, right time. You know, it's not the answer of all questions. It's not it's not going to save everybody. It's not, you know, the end all be all, but that is definitely a great place to be, where you're around people that understand and get it. And you can feel that you can feel it when you're there.
Yeah. And I think the more that we're around people, and it's not so looked at as being so strange, the things we're saying, that it's more susceptible, more open, and you'll start to notice these things. And I think the reasons for people not noticing or picking up on that energy is they ignore it. Like you said, it went away for a while, right? I've talked to several people that they said they were open and they'd see things, and then it just went away for like 10 years. But it would pop in either from like a near-death experience, or they lost somebody, or, you know, maybe a plant, you know, whatever. It's a different thing, but it would come back. And I just after going through it, I was fascinated with everyone's road and how it happened, because every single person's is different, and it's that interconnectedness. It's I think that when someone asked me, they're like, well, what do you think? You know, what do you think? My mom, well, she asked me, and it was a little bit of a different story, but I just feel that we are here to find our union with God. Like, and it sounds, but really, because that's what it is, and that's what an awakening is. Because right when that happened, I felt like I became. This is when I did talk to my mom. She goes, "What do you think would happen?" Like, what? Because I was separated from my family 21 years, my kids, and so they all thought something crazy, because he would have never left them, right? Never. And then I gave all my money. I started giving my money, everything, because I wanted them to understand how serious I was about how I believe what was happening. And it was so hard for them to understand that, to see. And I was willing to give everything, because what I felt, it was the most amazing. All the things I thought, because when you see there's something else, like, and you really know there's something else, and you can't take things with you because the hearse doesn't have luggage racks, you'll start to evaluate the things that you did and why you did them and how you got them. Yeah. Real quick. Yeah. And that's what I started to do. I started to look, I go, oh, dang, I have so much work to do.
Well, it's like you're doing what you would do after you pass. You're doing it while you're alive.
Yes.
You know, and that's a super valuable, important thing for people to witness, that your story, you know, and everybody that's going through these kinds of experiences, to find safe places to share the story. You know, that's why I think this podcast and what you're doing is super important. Because there's so many people out there listening, and this is the revolution that's happening through the internet and through us being connected worldwide now. There are people all over the world that are connecting with a similar vibration that goes beyond all borders, all colors, all genders. and is something that is very real. And the more stories that are being recorded and brought out, the more others are going to feel safe to come out too.
You know that's interesting you brought that up, because I'm not least likely, I'm going to stop saying that, but I'm the least likely guy to be in here talking about these things if you knew where I come from and who I am, right? And I had someone, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I had someone that lived a pretty surly life, from a neighborhood, and kind of, they're still gangbanging at 48 years old. and there's nothing wrong with that, because
there's nothing wrong in gangbanging at 48 years old.
Okay. But I literally,
Did he say that?
I literally had someone call me that's like, super triple OG, and they were like, yo, man, I listen to your podcast and I think it's amazing. And I'm like, that's the last thing I expected to hear from that person. And he was like, to hear you say your story and, and what you've gone through, and just even that you said it makes me feel okay that I can share my experience.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And that's when, like, Joey's been kind of touching on me, like, come in, go to class, do these things. And for me, that was an awakening moment, or a moment where I was like, okay, I am in the right place at the right time, and this is something that I need to do. Because if my story is affecting other people that way, especially someone like that, that will change, that'll alter their path, point them in the right direction, and I think that to me is what I'm the most proud of with what we're doing here. Is we're not yogis sharing yogi experiences. We're humans sharing our spiritual experience, and it sounds different, and it's valuable too. I mean, I sit with someone like you, and I'm like, I'm not worthy, because you've done so much, and you've seen so much, and you know so much, but I think our perspective is equally as valuable as well, because it's not so knowledgeable. It's based on pure faith that we're going to find what now we're allowing instead of making stuff happen. We're just like, okay, I'm going to show up today and do this podcast, and I had no idea what I would get today.
It's like a conscious dude, right? It's like, okay, so the veil. It's like somehow I walked through that door. I walked through that door, that veil. I started to see what was happening. And what happened was I looked back and I saw my buddy Eddie on the other side of that door, the veil. So I was like, I want to understand from his side, because he's right on the other side. He could see me, right? I got through to this side. So having these conversations from both sides and expressing our views from a conscious point of view, and he's a conscious dude, but he's sitting just right in the other, I could see him, he's scratching it. That's why he's here. And to talk about this with people like us from the street, doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter. It's like you said, we're all connected. You're not black, you're white, whatever it is. When people start talking, I'm not bound by those things, just because of the way I feel inside. I feel I've been a lot of different people.
Let's get back to you.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors? Like what? Yeah. Give us some of that. Give us some of that good stuff.
Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, Alex and Allison Gray, are two really important characters, visionaries in our contemporary world.
Yeah.
They started the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, COSM, in New York some years ago, built the first rendition in Manhattan. And now they have a property up in Wappingshire Falls, which is, it's a church. It's a legal church status, and they hold full moon gatherings, solstice gatherings, art church, workshops, and they're building a museum right now, or shall I say I'm also on the board of directors.
Nice.
of COSM, and I teach there every year, my workshop, Painting with Light. So
when is that one coming up?
It's in October, actually. We still have some spots open. I don't know when this is
Joey,
going to be
I think we need to
broadcast.
make the trip.
When is it again?
It's pretty cool. It's October 4th through 11th, and it's a week-long intensive. And so it's one of the best places, or one of the places that I love to teach the most. It's a real sanctuary. It's in this beautiful forest, just an hour and a half north of Manhattan. And we have a studio where it's 19, 20 people is the max. And we go deep. And my partner, Joe Bob Merritt, and I are teaching this one. And this workshop is Mixed Tech and Mystics. And so we go into this technique that I was trained in through Ernst Fuchs and Michael Fuchs, which is based on an early Renaissance painting method of developing a piece using layers of building up the light and values of light, glazing with color, and it's working in a very indirect kind of painting method, which comes from early Renaissance. And so I've continued to work in this method, and now I use it as a tool to also teach people to become more present, to see. And to see, first you learn also by learning to see the natural world, the world around you, and being able to interpret that. And then you are given tools to then be able to draw, paint the inner worlds. And so, and it's a journey, it's a process that we go through in a group that is really powerful, because it's something that people come and they think they're going to learn how to paint. And that's just a little part of it.
That's just a small piece of it.
And that's the meditation that we're focusing on. But we're also all going into this whole process of also observing the self, observing the self-talk, observing like what is. And this is a part of Jobab's teaching, which is around self-remembering, which is based on Gurdjieff's work and the Fourth Way. And he has a really interesting lineage that he's been a part of in becoming more self-aware, learning how to really spot the personality, spot the conditioning in each other, and therefore have then also compassion and not be triggered by the machine of the personality. Because the machine of the personality is something that has been conditioned since birth. Since we came into this world and we thought this wasn't fair. Why is there resistance now? It was so non-resistant in the womb, in the space where there was no time, there was constant temperature, everything was great. And then all of a sudden I come out and it's this totally traumatic experience. Everything's painful.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I'm disconnected from the mother. You know, I have experienced hunger pains. I experience, like temperature differences. And it's like, fuck this. I'm gonna go
I don't make it back in there. Exactly.
And really, you feel like that, like, yeah, wow, sounds heavy. Right.
So if you really consider that, it's like there's this like base kind of like right that we believe that we should be non-disturbed. When the reality is, the truth of the fact of the matter is that we are in physical bodies on a planet with gravity. So something.
Yeah.
Right.
There's hot and cold. There's all kinds, you can get cut, you can get killed, all these things. That's the reality. But we're in this state where we're constantly thinking we this is not fair. So we're trying to become non-disturbed all the time, right? And finding tricks and ways, complaining, sticking up for your rights, being too pleasant, anything to get your way to what you think is going to help you be non-disturbed. When that is a total trickery and an endless game of becoming non-disturbed.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So this is a really interesting, it goes deep. And there's this map of conditioned man, which he presents. This is the work off of Dr. Bob Gibson, who transliterated some of the work of Gurdjieff. And it's a very fascinating journey that we go on together. So it's a really deep dive into what it is to be in this human experience. Let's practice something, right? We're going to practice. We're going to use art as that practice. And a lot of people that come are not, intending to be professional artists but we do have we have some professional artists. I also encourage people that have never really painted before.
Yeah, I've never really painted.
It's like using art to have a spiritual experience, pretty much. Yeah.
You have to be open. I said,
Right.
As long as you're open to being in a state of consideration, of diving deep, of committing yourself to something. And this is a great revolution that's happening now. More and more people are open to expanding their awareness. And so these kinds of workshops we've seen are just taking off. And every one that we do are full. And we do one in Costa Rica, Vienna, Australia, LA. I'm due to do one again in LA. I think we'll do it in January.
All right.
My birthday's January 23rd, so if you feel like you want to throw me a present, I'd love to come hang out.
That's perfect.
Got that. It's on
23rd,
camera.
Got it.
But yeah, it's a good thing, and it's all become a symbiotic experience of this of coming together in a group and realizing that the bigger scope of what's really going on isn't also about what we're individually doing, though that totally matters. It's about coming together and reflecting all this experience as a group. And that's where the real work happens. You can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You got to do it in a group. And so when you have a specific amount of time, it's like, okay, and we're going to get together and we're going to do this, and everybody shows up, it's amazing what happens. And it's one of the best parts of the experience that I've been enjoying a lot these days. And going into the studio and then coming out into the group. And that's a big thing that's happening in this visionary,
How big are the
visionary
groups?
culture. I'd like to keep it at 20.
20?
Yeah.
How many times a year do you have? About 4 or 5?
Max.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the one I just did in Vienna was five weeks long, and that's the longest. We do one in Italy in this eco village called Torre Superiore. That's what the school actually came out of, and that's been going on for about 12 years now. Every July, 3 weeks long, in a fortress. It's like a fortress. The foundation is from 800 years ago. And a group of 5 families came together and renovated this place into their home, and then also a place for ecotourism. So there's like 160 rooms in this whole place. It's like, it wasn't a fortress of royalty or anything like that. It was a commoners kind of like area. It's right off of the coast of the Mediterranean, right on the border to France. So
Wow.
you fly into Nice. And oh my God, so we eat the most incredible food, and we paint, and we go swimming in this beautiful river, and it's just dreamy. And the people that come from all over the world it's just fascinating.
I'm in.
Little eco village.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm in.
Yeah.
Well, this has
Hope
been
to see you
amazing. Yeah, for sure. Well, so we're having another art show. The first art
Yeah,
show
we can
had-
definitely talk about the art show. I mean, you know what we're doing, right?
A little bit.
Yeah,
Joey
yeah.
told me.
So I'll give you the history. So Joey came to me originally when we started, kind of hanging out in this new space. One of the things, I'm in the art world. I've been selling art and I was a graffiti artist for forever. So we threw an art show to benefit homeless in Malibu, and I brought like Retina and Brainwash and Shepherd and Sage Vaughn and Cisco Adler and a bunch of my friends. Like, I'm not a curator. I just call my friends and say, hey, I'm going to have a show, and it goes pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we're working on a new concept, and this time we're going to benefit
It's mental health. That's how ACISTE comes in.
mental health.
Yeah.
And ACISTE is an organization that's helping professionals deal with people having spiritual awakenings, not saying they're crazy or they're bipolar, but like helping them through the process, like engaging them on a different level. And then also we're going to be working with ACON on the Light Up America. Right.
Well, yeah. The thing is ACISTE is having a conference. I think November 13th, 12th, 13th. I think it is. And what they do is they bring therapists and doctors from around the globe that will participate, and they train them to spiritually understand what's happening when someone's going through an awakening, so that other doctors, Western doctors, understand. So they're inviting like professors from universities to come and speak on panels to talk about awakenings and the symptoms of an awakening and what to do when this happens. And so you have both sides. People that, like for my family, what they saw, what happened, and to because she really didn't have anyone to talk to besides a mental institution. So she had nothing really to base it on, an opinion to say, well, what else could it be? So when someone says you're crazy, it's hard to get a second opinion.
Yeah.
So when I woke up and saw ACISTE and started reading about it and saw that there was another place for people to look and get another opinion, it seemed, how is it not out there? So the next art show, what we're going to do is raise some awareness and raise some money for ACISTE and homelessness, because I feel that usually what happens is people have mental breakdowns, something like that, and next thing you know, they're homeless.
Well, it sounds like the vision quest, right? You go out there and you have no food and water, and you're on your own. I mean, that sounds like a lot of people that are out there on the streets. So you can only imagine how open some of those people are.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that Tage told me when I took Joey, when we went to Tage, I was worried. I was like, my teacher, I'm introducing her to this guy that's crazy, kind of, right? She's like, he's fine. The information is being downloaded at a rate that he just cannot handle. He'll get the tools. So that's probably what's going on with a lot of people out there in the streets is they're not eating, right? They're in the sun, they're out all the time, they're very alone even.
Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to protect themselves. So that's why they look a little crazy, because if you walk up to them, they'll start screaming. I was in mental institutions and I saw them. And so I was like, this person doesn't seem crazy to me. I could tell they were acting crazy, but I think that was just something to put on for protection.
Yeah.
When you're on the street and people are stealing your shit, you have to move every 5 minutes and there's nowhere to go. So you have to, it's like, just keep walking. It's like, where do you walk to? There's no, like, you have to just keep walking.
Yeah.
So I started to see that these people in the mental institutions were completely normal, that were going through what I was going through. And I was like, how many people here like me? I started asking doctors that were saying that schizophrenia and were going through the same thing that I was going through. And almost, not to say everybody in there, but every other person was going through experiences like the ones I was going through. So I was like, this is wild, and there's nothing else out there,
Yeah.
So that's what what led me to Eddie, and like, let's start feeding some homeless, and to see, and it just kind of cracked open and kept going, and so, which is leading to the second art show. We have Snoop involved, we have Akon involved, Akon Lighting America. Akon set up a nonprofit in Africa, Akon Lighting Africa, and brought solar electricity to over 600 million people. And so, he responded to what we were talking about, and we got Snoop involved, Akon involved. So we're going to do a art show and a music festival starting in November 16th will be the day of the art show. We're still looking for a location. And I know, of course, we called you to ask you to be in it and to interview you, and thank you for coming down, and so appreciate, seeing you again. We've talked about a lot of these things that you've come to my house, and I kept bumping into you, and I called you up and I had to talk to you. It was, so I remember it's like I had to reach out to you, and I knew that we would cross paths again for sure. And so thank you so much.
That's so wild when you called too. I was expecting actually another call, and I just picked it up. And I was like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And then you're like, do you know who this is? And it was like, but it flowed so perfectly. And yeah.
Are you here November 16th?
I probably can be. That's kind of, there's a bit of a gap in November between things.
Because what I think would be
there's a real
interesting
potential that I could be here, yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but after talking to you, I think, maybe there's something we can do to get you to do more than just donate a piece or present a piece in the show. Maybe you can help us create some sort of workshop where we, because one of the things I want to do.
If you would do something.
We can do the vision train.
That would be awesome.
Okay, that's it. So
that's it
done.
right there.
All right, boom, there it is.
So
boom.
that's what we talked about.
Well, yeah, because, I want to do a lot. Like, we want to take a space for the weekend, and I want to be activating at every turn. So it's like 10 a.m., 11, 12, just constant, using that space to just utilize our resources to open up people and assist,
Right.
Oddly enough. And I think that'd be great. Even if you can't necessarily lead it or be 100% present, at least you can give us the tools that we need to activate if you're not here.
For sure. I think that could flow pretty well, though.
That's great.
That'd be awesome.
And what about the
honored.
School from Watts? Do you think they would want to participate? Because we would
Exactly.
open it up
I
and
was just
offer it
thinking
to
about that.
schools to come out. So maybe they could be one of the schools that comes and participates.
Yeah, my friend Matt, who's the teacher there in my connection, he's an incredible human.
What's the name of the school?
It's Markham
Okay.
Middle School.
So they redid Jordan Downs' gym in Watts, and I had Mar and Sec go and paint the gym on behalf of Jordan. Jordan donated they paid us to go and do it. I didn't show up, but I didn't show up, but they went and painted it. So maybe we'll get them involved too on some level.
That'd be great.
Hopefully we'll see you before that.
Yeah.
But I got a question.
Sure.
Let me ask you a couple questions that are off the spiritual topic, but on the art topic, because I'm in the graffiti world, and it's interesting to me what's going on with like street art and murals. Like every city you go to, like murals are like the big thing now. It's like, do you do murals?
I want to do murals. I haven't done any big ones yet.
Okay.
I
Well, I got a couple.
really look forward to it,
I got a
though.
couple things. Branded Arts. Have you heard of Warren Brand? He did this thing in Little Tokyo or Koreatown, the school. Okay, so one of my friends does. One of my friends does a lot of outdoor mural stuff, but I'm working on a mural fest with Shepard and some other people. Maybe we can talk about that. But I think You know who Mir?
Oh yeah, Mir's a good friend of mine.
Okay, so Mir is a great friend of mine as well, and I can see his. There's some similarities there.
Do you know Shrine's work?
Of course, yeah.
So Shrine's a really dear friend. Some of the biggest work I've ever painted is with him.
Okay.
We did a big piece in Portugal about 4 years ago.
Great.
But yeah, I so honor what he does, what he's been doing in where has he been in Palestine? He's been in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Working with two sides. I'm not quite sure where, Beirut maybe, but they were warring kind of communities, and as a part of a healing project, bringing them together and painting together,
doing murals. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's next level.
That's
healing is what's happening, and that's the whole.
And at the end of it, they leave something behind that not just the people that are going through the experience can relate to, but it's like an image that people can dive into, and kind of take something away.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's what I think the beauty of murals are. It's like it's public art, so
Exactly.
especially with what you're doing.
Exactly.
It's like that can take you somewhere, and so if that's a 10-story building,
Yeah.
it's great that it's going to be, no disrespect to what Shepard's doing, like Johnny Cash or these iconic figures, which are great. But imagine if you're putting that type of dimensional work up that has a message or multiple messages.
A sacred art, bringing back also the technology and the importance of sacred art, of having work that does transport you energetically into the space or state that it was intended for. And the Tanka paintings, are you familiar with Romeo Shrestha?
No.
He made some of these big Tanka painting books, the celestial Tanka painting. I don't remember the name of it, but he's the 17th incarnation of the original Tanka painting master from Tibet. The Dalai Lama is the 14th now, right? So the 17th incarnation, that's a few more.
Yeah.
But he's a really interesting character, and he is alive and well. He lives in Ireland. He just opened a show in New York City at the Tibet House called The Body of Light.
Wow. So it's open now?
It just closed, actually.
Okay.
But he's a dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
We just had a 4-hour conversation a few days ago. He calls when I think of him, and then a few moments later
Phone
he calls.
rings. That's great. So you're connected.
And we have a real download. And he's very interested in. He says in this lifetime his monastery has no walls. And he came to Hawaii in 2011 at the Alchemize conference. He found out about it through the internet and the visionary artists through the internet. And he came and he said, I think the visionary artists are my reincarnated monks. 500 of my monks were killed in front of me in the last lifetime, and they've reincarnated all over the world.
Yeah.
And so there's this, there's people like him that keep reminding me,
Yeah.
we need to transcend the ego, and we need to work together, and I feel that like what you guys are up to, in this vision of bringing art more, and the connection with the art in the streets, and this transcendence of the white wall gallery.
Yeah.
Right. There's something, Swizz Beats.
Yeah, we're just talking
No
about him.
Commission. What he's doing in Miami, I think is super inspiring. And Swoon is also.
Yeah, of course.
She's been a wonderful influence of mine and a friend of mine over the years, ally.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Seventh Letter Crew?
No.
Okay, so I'm part of a crew that we started. It's probably the largest graffiti crew in the world, called the Seventh Letter.
Yeah.
G. And it's, a lot of people that you probably are familiar with would consider themselves a member or an affiliate of what we've been doing for a long time.
Yay. Well, I'm glad to hear.
And it's all outdoor. It's all, sure, Retina's part of it. So
Yeah.
there's the gallery and the Jeffrey Dite side of things, obviously. But most of it is really street communication. That's what we started as. We're communicating with people. We're getting our message out there on the street, So we're definitely going to try to do that as much as we can with what we're going through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think it's that balance too of bringing the gallery world and also the financial part of the art world,
Which is necessary.
and connecting that also with the real mission and vision behind most of the artists' work and that. So there's this place called Rhythmia, which is it's called a Life Advancement Center. It's in Costa Rica, and this guy Gerard Powell, I think I'm saying it's I'll be meeting you soon, buddy. But anyway, he's had an amazing story, and you got to watch his film. He made a documentary about his experience. It's called Mrs. Moon's Medicine, and he turned his life around.
Where can you find it?
Online.
Like a guy from Gaia or something, or
no? You can watch it for free, I think, online.
Really?
Go to Rhythmia and check out what they have going on, and so he was on a crazy fast track to to ruin of his own life. Super successful, here from LA, had everything he could possibly thought he could ever possibly want, but was really going downhill, in just drugs and all the things. And he somehow, I don't remember the exact link, but he he found ayahuasca. It's kind of a last resort almost, to see if he could help change this character, this beast that he had become.
Right.
And he had a really profound experience that helped him see. It's kind of like I'm looking at the triangle here of these, in the table, these screw marks.
Right.
But it's kind of like that perspective that psychedelics can give you.
Yeah.
Is you can see outside of your experience of your perception of what is, and you can see yourself and you can see life, and really see maybe the truth through it. And so he had such an incredible awakening. The story, Mrs. Moon's Medicine, is really beautiful, and it told him to take what he had created and to turn it into create the center. And it's become a place that it's definitely something that is, it's a steep ticket.
Is it when they do that? There's a what's that festival in Costa Rica? It's
Envision. No, it's a different.
Time?
No, well, Rhythmia is happening all the time.
Oh, okay. So it's just
it's in the Guanacaste region, so it's further north from Envision. But it's a place where you have a real full facility dedicated, committed to your well-being.
Yeah, 24/7
facility. Really
I think I've heard of it.
Facilitators.
I actually think I've heard of it.
And and so I've actually my work has been affiliated with the ayahuasca community for about 10 years. I just sat with the medicine for the first time last year, and I'd been invited over the years to so many different ceremonies and to be, but it wasn't right yet. I felt I was with all respect to the medicine and to the when the right time comes, I'll know. And so now I've started this relationship with actually sitting with the medicine and understanding a little bit deeper of because people come out and they're like, man, your work is like what I saw,
Yeah.
So,
it's I've only done ayahuasca once, and I've done DMT once, and that's what I saw is the images and the art that you saw. It's like this geometry, and it's completely. When I was there, what I saw when I did the ayahuasca, I did, and I fell asleep. But when I did DMT, absolutely, it was all like these forms and shapes and colors, and it was amazing. It was really an amazing experience.
Yeah, so it definitely speaks to being connected and being here before and being here again. To you being able to articulate that vision without actually taking the medicine.
And I think a lot of it comes from the work that I did with Ernst Fuchs for so many years, and watching him and being around him, not really knowing. You could tell he didn't know what he was doing, but he was showing up.
Yeah.
Right? And he was kind of and seeing what the paintbrush would do and following.
It's like he was channeling, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And so that's something that I picked up around him. I was like, oh, that's how you do it.
You said it. He didn't know what he was doing, but he was doing it.
So
that's
the
channeling.
first time I ever smoked weed and painted, and it really worked.
Right.
Was with him in the church. We didn't smoke in the church, but we were working together.
Right. We didn't smoke in the church. Right.
Well, it doesn't matter because he knows if you did.
But it was an experience that I never forgot after that. It was just him and I, and he said to me, we're painting, and he's like, you know what would be great right now? Is some good Mexican weed. And I was like, what? I was like, I don't know about your generation, but my generation, that was not the good
we're not
stuff.
smoking. No.
It's a little more green now.
And he's like, but he was in LA in the 50s, actually eating peyote. They were just getting it shipped to them in boxes, and experimenting. But so I was like, well, I do have a little bit of good Austrian homegrown. I mean, I can offer that if you'd like. And he's like, all right, let's go. And so we went and we smoked a little bit, and then we came back to paint. And I stood there and I watched him for a while first. And I realized what he was doing. And it finally like really hit me. Yeah. And he would load up his brush. He would just get it loaded, and then he would go. And he would stop when there was absolutely nothing left.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like this thing. It's like this connection that he would, and there was like almost a sound to it. The first time I ever painted 16 hours was with him.
Yeah, there was a rhythm.
Yeah, there's a rhythm, and there's something that you get into, and they all show up. You're guided.
Yeah.
You know? But there's a point you have to get through of like the fear of failure and the fear of the mistake, where you then realize that you can make no mistake.
There are no mistakes.
No.
Yeah.
And then
that's
that
full
channel,
potential.
you know,
That's
and
like you were like
graffiti
just
artists
hitting it.
are at the pinnacle
Right.
of that, of being able to wield that control in a way, you know, and that there's something so exhilarating and precious and deep and connected that I've always felt and seen through graffiti art. And also the fact that it's like, you know, doing it on train cars or
illegal hanging off of
you know,
freeway on ramps.
The kind of passion that is around, that is
that it takes to get out and go do it. Have you ever heard of Rhyme, Jersey Joe?
I think so.
So he's a really well-known artist. He's done really well for himself.
Yeah.
But he's really on the journey, and he's taking the medicine. And even Dave Navarro and a couple of friends did it, and they swear by it. He swears by it for his creativity. Like that's it. You know, that's the basis of it. And you know, I'm considering trying to sit down with the medicine and trying to figure it out, but I'm really fearful. You know,
well,
I'm scared of what I'm going to find. You know,
I think a good thing to know going into it is that there is nothing you can't handle, and that you're protected, and that you're safe. You know, and that the revealing of what the medicine can bring, that you're strong enough to see it, and that you're ready to. You know, and there's nothing that's actually that can really harm you. And when you go in with that kind of like that prayer, and you go in with good guides,
with that
really
intention,
good surroundings where you know where the medicine's coming from, that is very, very clear, very, very important. You know, to be
with the right people,
with the right people.
Container.
And if there's any question, you know, step back and wait. I waited 10 years till I felt really clear, where it was a clear thing that it was like, no, because I started getting invited because of my art.
Yeah,
no, you would think it, because I didn't know what you just said. Because of your art, Eddie said it.
Yeah.
This is what I saw. And I'm not saying because you're here, I'm just straight up.
That's truth.
These geometric shapes and colors that start happening. And I was like, wow. And it's these forms and these colors and these images that I saw.
Well, it's all part of it. You know?
Well, for me, when I was young, I was probably about 13 years old. I took window pane acid. I took a whole hit of window pane, right? And I had a very violent experience. I threw a person off a second-story balcony because my girlfriend was asleep and he tried to crawl in her sleeping bag. So I threw him through a sliding glass door and tossed him over a second-story balcony and jumped over after him. Yeah, it's truth. So for me, every time I would go into a journey like that, that was the stem of it for me, was worrying that switch would flip and then I was going to hurt someone. So I'm always like super cautious and scared, and you know, didn't want to. And I've had a lot of really bad experiences with mushrooms where I would just isolate myself because I felt I was protecting the other people around me. You know, like I'm the demon that needs to stay in the room while you guys all go and have a great time.
Yeah.
You know, so that's around peak time. I'd go hide my head in the sand, and then everyone else would go have a wonderful time and see all these colors, and I'd be ashamed.
Yeah.
You know? So I do think maybe I'm ready, and with the right guide, I can kind of get over that, because that's not my truth. That was my experience. That's not the foundation of it all. You know.
Yeah. But all of that you've seen and that you've experienced has helped. You know, has been a part of your soul's journey in some way, you know,
like,
and that
I love who I am,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't, maybe not all the things I've done, but I definitely love where it's brought me.
Right. It's like, love the things you did, but I love the way it shaped me, because I'm able to understand. Yeah. It's like that's the thing of letting go of the guilt of the things that I did, because I always thought of myself less than all the time, because the way I was, what my mom used to say, because me and my little brother didn't have really a relationship because I wasn't able to go home. I wasn't able to go to my house because I was a bad influence.
Yeah.
So from 14 years old on, 13, I was gone. And so I was just always thought I was a bad person. So I just, when you have that and then people look at you and you do these things, even the picture with me, I always had a grimace on my face, or I didn't want people
picture
near
of us
me.
when we were.
Yeah,
Hey,
like
you look great. A couple of people said, "Oh, Joey used to be good looking."
But I just kind of but I remember I just didn't want anyone around me. It was an easy way of, if you're not smiling, people don't
People
want
don't
to
want to talk to you.
Now I do. I do. I smiled at everyone. I remember I wouldn't wear certain colors because I was like, God, I don't want to intimidate people. I don't want to, the things I used to do, it's just not the way to move through the world.
It really isn't.
No.
It isn't. You're stuck. But anyway, Amanda, do you know a girl named ACISTE that's in Bali that's had sacred geometry?
No, I don't. I haven't been connected with Bali directly for a long time. It's time to go back. I can't wait.
There's a gallery in a bud. There's a gallery by this guy named Agung. No, his name is Agung.
Agung Rai.
Yes,
I know him.
He's my home. I have pictures of him
Are
on my
you serious?
Facebook. Yeah.
You gotta say hi for me. I don't know if you'd remember me.
Oh, he's amazing.
Man,
that's a trip.
He is a major supporter of the arts there. He built these museums there.
So this guy was a street kid.
Totally.
I met him. We start talking, and he finds out I'm a street kid. He goes, "Me too. I used to sell art on the beach." And he goes, "I go, you did?" And he goes, "Yeah. Come to my place." So I'm thinking I'm gonna go back to this guy's little house, in what he's talking. I end up going back to his gallery, which is a huge hotel. Obama stays there when he goes there. Next thing I'm looking, and he has kids everywhere, and he's teaching them art. All the street kids.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how about we do an art show here, right? He's like, well, I do art. So yeah, good idea. He was kind of messing with me. He goes, but let's do it. He goes, well, I'd like to do an exchange program and actually bring kids from Indonesia and then bring kids from the States and bring them here for art.
That'd be amazing.
So we got in. This is actually how this started. I'm not even kidding you. Yes. So I ended up talking to him. I ended up going there. I meet the High King of Indonesia and 3-star general with Agung, and they said, let's do a music festival and art show in Ubud at his gallery. So that's what brought me here to start this art show in this music festival that's supposed to go to Bali to Ubud.
We're going.
Yes.
I'm going.
You know Agung. I'm gonna hit him right now. It's a great the sweet, you see him and right when you see his eyes, he's like an angel.
I used to go. He would have Balinese dancers on Sundays come and pose in the gardens and invite artists to come and draw them, and you wouldn't have to pay anything, for the models or anything. He would have coffee or tea or fruit, everything brought to the artists. And he would just go and draw. It was amazing. I have this huge collection of drawings.
I got to show you. Here's a picture of this is the.
It really special.
He's one of Agung he was such amazing dude. It's
I'm so glad that comes up again.
Oh yeah, here he is, right here.
My heart's so connected.
Oh, it's not going to come in here. Yeah.
All the full circles. I feel like I've lived so many lives already in this life.
We're lucky.
We're lucky in this lifetime. We get to experience so much.
Well, thank you a lot for coming in again. It's always a pleasure to see you, and I will see you on November 16th.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
For sure.